They don't announce big events the way movies do. There's no countdown, no sirens, no official warning. What usually comes first is something small, something that looks irrelevant, something that feels like noise, a coincidence. And this is a look at those moments. Because before every major shift, there are signals that don't look important yet. Here's one. On certain nights, just before major military operations, something unusual happens around a very specific location in Washington, D.C. Pizza deliveries spike. Not by a little, by a lot. Late at night, multiple locations all within the same radius. The target? The Pentagon. This pattern was first noticed back in the early 1980s by a local Domino's manager named Frank Meeks. He wasn't looking for intelligence signals. He was just looking at his receipts. On the nights before the invasion of Grenada, orders surged. Before the invasion of Panama, same thing. Before the first Gulf War, it happened again. The pattern was undeniable. Hundreds of people were suddenly staying late. Meetings were running through the night. Nobody was leaving the building. And in the middle of a crisis, people still need to eat. Pizza is fast, pizza is anonymous, and pizza doesn't ask questions. Years later, journalists quietly admitted they had noticed the exact same thing. Wolf Blitzer once joked on air that if you want a real early warning system for military action, you don't look at press releases, you watch the pizza shops. This isn't a theory. It's not a prediction model. It's a pattern, a weak signal. And weak signals are always dismissed until they repeat. Recently, this has gone digital. Independent trackers started monitoring late-night delivery volume near sensitive government buildings. No names, no claims, just numbers. One of those trackers logged a sudden spike, over 180% above normal, during hours that are usually completely quiet. Nothing official was happening. No press conferences, no alerts, no headlines. 12 hours later, the news broke. Now here's the important part. The pizza didn't cause anything, and it didn't predict anything, not really. It simply appeared. The mistake most people make is assuming signals are loud and obvious. They aren't. They're mundane. They hide inside routine behavior. They look boring until you line them up. And that's the difference between noise and a pattern. Noise is random. Patterns repeat. And in the end, repetition is the only thing that matters. We don't claim to know what happens next. We don't forecast outcomes. We don't chase hype. We just document moments like this. Small anomalies, uncomfortable coincidences, signals that surface briefly and then disappear. Most people never notice them. Some people notice and they ignore them. A few track them. Because the real question is never what will happen. The question is, why did this appear now?
If you notice patterns, small shifts in the background noise, you're probably in the right place. What makes signals like this so uncomfortable isn't what they ultimately reveal, it's how ordinary they are. There are no classified documents changing hands, no secret codes being passed in the dark, no dramatic last-minute warnings. There is only behavior. A single late delivery, a meeting that runs just a little longer than it should, an unusual purchase order that gets a quick, plausible explanation, a delay that gets blamed, as it so often does, on technical issues. Each one, on its own, feels completely explainable, insignificant. But that's the entire point. Systems don't announce when they're under stress. They don't send out a memo or issue a press release. They express stress indirectly. Before something changes publicly, it almost always changes privately first. Schedules begin to shift in subtle ways. Long-standing protocols are quietly adjusted, maybe just for a day, then another. Routines stretch, becoming just a bit more elastic, a bit more tolerant of deviation. And all of those small changes, they leave traces. They are fingerprints in the data, footnotes in the logistics. The reason most people never see them is painfully simple. They don't look meaningful on their own. They look like life. But signals are never meant to be understood individually. They only begin to make sense when they repeat, when one late delivery becomes a pattern, when one longer meeting becomes the new normal. And that's what makes these weak signals so dangerous, not because they predict a specific outcome, they rarely do. It's because they test our awareness. Most systems, whether they're in global finance, military logistics, public healthcare, or technology, are built on a single fundamental assumption that small deviations will be ignored. And most of the time they are. The problem isn't that we lack information. We're drowning in it. The real problem is our inability to distinguish the noise from the signal. Noise is everywhere. It's loud, it's chaotic, it demands our attention every second of the day. Signals, however, are rare. And signals don't shout over the chaos. They whisper from underneath it. They are the quiet data point in a storm of headlines. This isn't about being an alarmist. It's about being a documentarian. We're not here to document outcomes. We're not here to predict futures. We're here to document moments. Those fleeting moments when something subtle appears on the periphery and then disappears without any real explanation. Remember this: before any system truly breaks, it stretches. Before a major shift becomes visible to everyone, it first becomes measurable to the few who are watching, quietly, in the margins. Sometimes, after these moments, nothing follows. The system settles back into its familiar rhythm. The stretch relaxes. But sometimes, something does. The point isn't to guess which it will be. It's not about being right. The point is to simply notice that it appeared at all. Because once you start paying attention to patterns like this, you begin to see just how often they surface and how quickly they're forgotten by everyone else. Most people will scroll right past them. Some will recognize them, but only when it's far too late. A select few, however, learn to pause. This is for that pause. For the next time you see something small, something easily dismissed, something that appears right before anyone even thinks to ask why.